this video, we are going to test for Varroa mites, and we're going to do that in a couple ways. First, we'll use a Varroa Easy Checker, and we'll use that to do both a powdered sugar roll and an alcohol wash. And then we will also use a DIY method using a mason jar with a number 8 hardware cloth screen in place of the jar lid.
Hi, Honey Company. We're at it again today. We're going to test the bees to see what their mite levels are. We got a couple of ways of doing that. We're going to use this easy check. We also have a homemade version. This method, sugar roll, does not kill the bees, right? And the alcohol wash does. We're going to use alcohol. It says on here you can use several different kinds of alcohol. If windshield wiper fluid is what you have with ammonia in it, that works too. We're just using plain old rubbing alcohol. It doesn't matter. We're going to kill the bees. So we're going to sacrifice a few hundred bees to make sure that the whole colony doesn't die. Let's put it that way. So now you can feel better about it. All right, here we go. We got to get into the brood chamber. So most of the mites are on the house bees, the nurse bees. So we're going to find a frame with some brood on it. Not the queen, for sure not the queen. And we're going to shake them into this basket, 300 of them. It has a fill to here level on the inside of it, and so we'll know roughly how many of these individual bees we have. We're going to pour the alcohol in the container first. So we've filled up the container about half full with alcohol. Now I'm going to take the basket to the beehive. I want some place to set the frame with the queen on it so I don't get the queen in the alcohol wash. Hang on, I'm going to get a new box. Okay, so if you got a frame rest, that works too, but we don't have one handy. We'll just put the queen over here where she's safe. I want positive ID on the queen bee before I shake any bees off. Don't want to make that kind of mistake this time of year, because if I did, there's no way to replace her. It's too late in the year. There she is right there. We made life easier for us for this situation. We won't spend a lot of time wasting our viewers' time looking for the queen bee, because we put a bright yellow dot on her so we know where she is. Now we can move on with checking for mites. Because I know she's there, and I know this one has brood, I'll just take this one. All right, we know the queen's safe where she is. I'll just put my basket right over the middle of this and shake some bees in it. I'll put this right in the middle so the ones that I missed don't land on the ground. They land in the box. Okay, now we got more than 300. By the time I get this over to the container there, the fume will fly out and we'll have enough in there. Here we go. Okay. Sorry, bees. All right, now I got to shake this for 1 minute. That'll dislodge the mites from off of the honeybees. I can already see some of them floating in there. This colony here spent most of the summer by itself up on the mountain. They got some really good honey out of it, and this was a swarm to begin with. So they started with only phoretic mites as a swarm back in the middle of the summer to this.
Time?
Is that it? Time? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. All right, now we take out the bees. And we can see on the bottom of the container how many mites there are. All right, let's count. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Some of those are just little bits of wax in there. 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like there's 7. Let's call it 7 mites. We got 7 mites out of that one.
So there's 7 mites in 300 bees.
Yeah.
And that means that you need to take the 7, times it by 2 to count the phoretic and the mites in the brood, right?
Yeah.
So that's 14, and then you divide it by 3 to get how many per 100 bees. So there's about 4 and a third per every 100 bees. So that's a pretty high mite count
Yeah.
for this time of year.
There's one more mite that was still on the basket. 8. If you're doing this on a commercial scale, this is a good way to take a sample test. Of course, you can't do every hive, but that'll help you get an idea. Powdered sugar roll is next. We should do it out of the same colony because we'll know if we got 8 doing a alcohol wash. Let's see if we get 8 doing a powdered sugar roll. All right, I got to find the queen again. She could have crawled over to another frame. If it isn't the roosters, it's the geese, I guess.
Yeah. When is the ideal time to check for mites? Do you just do it in October?
No. There's the ideal time to check for mites, and then there's the time when we actually check for mites. Most people actually check for mites when it's too late in the season. The mites are the highest in August. You need to check in July to see what your mite levels are. Make sure that you treat in August, near the end of August. If you wait till too late, your bees will die. Now remember, always remember this, anytime you're reading articles about mites and treating for bees, if you don't treat your bees for mites, they'll die. If you do treat your bees for mites, they'll probably die anyway. I gotta make sure I find the queen bee. So, okay, I made a mistake, back up. I should have taken that queen bee when I found her, put her in the nuke box like I intended to do first. I didn't know we were gonna be in here long.
She's on the ground, I saw her.
I'm sorry? She's on the bottom?
In the bottom.
Okay. The queen's never on the bottom board. What's she doing down there? So we're looking for the queen bee on the frames where she's supposed to be, right? But she's on the bottom board. Here's the easy way. You get a little bit bigger container to shake the bees in. A container that'll fit a frame in like that. Now the bees are in here.
It's weird to measure something that flies.
Now we can roll the bees in. We'll let some of them fly out first.
You got too many?
There's too many. We don't need that many. We'll let them down to the top line, the big line, the full line. All right. Okay, there's about 300. All right, we put this in here now.
In a dry container.
In a dry container.
This is like a separate one, right?
We're going to add the powdered sugar. We're not baking a cake. Doesn't have to be that exact. Just enough sugar to cover the bees. So maybe that much, I don't know, a couple tablespoons. And we'll dump that into the bees.
We dumped in the sugar off camera. Okay, so we put the lid on.
All right, then we do the sugar shake or the sugar roll. That'll dislodge the mites off the bees. They'll fall through in the powdered sugar. Do that for a minute.
1 minute later.
When we're done with that, we can take the bees out and I'll put the bees back in the hive. These bees will clean each other up. No harm done. Now we're going to take the powdered sugar with the mites in it, and we need to put it on a white surface. A paper plate works, so we can count the mites.
Oh, you're going to do it on the drip tray.
Yeah, I'm just going to put them right on the drip tray. All right. Now we get it wet. If you get it wet, then the mites will show up as the powdered sugar dissolves. Get these bees out of here. They got their Halloween ghost bee costume on. All right, now we take some water and we dissolve the powdered sugar. If you got a sprayer that works. Otherwise, just dump some water on it. There's a mite, 2. All right, well, that would be easier if it was in a bowl maybe or something, but we can count them here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, I counted 4, maybe 5, 4 or 5 mites. So we got 8 in the first one and 4 or 5 in the second. The sugar roll is not quite as accurate.
But we can tell that we need to treat for mites.
Now we're going to put in a mite treatment. We've got some Varroa mite treatment strips ready to go. We got some on shop towels. They're wet. This is oxalic acid and glycerin, half and half mixed. And we put some on some cardboard strips and some paper sheetrock mud strips. So I think we'll use the blue paper shop towels for this treatment. So let's come on along, let's go put that in. We cut the paper towel roll in half, and they're a bit wet. So we're going to put one paper towel in here, and we're going to spread it over the surface with over the top of the top bars. Just lay it down like that. So the bees will crawl all over this oxalic acid glycerin mix and spread it around the hive, and it will come in contact with the Varroa mite and kill it. We're going to test for mites using a homemade sugar shaker. First, we locate the queen. All right, so the lesson here is put your veil on before you open the beehive.
Okay, so you're looking for the queen.
First thing is I find the queen bee so she doesn't end up taking a powder. There she is. All right, she's not marked, but I found her. Okay. She's right here. She's got a lot of open brood still. She's still laying eggs. They're raising brood this time of year. And there's not that much honey in there. I might be a little worried. I'm not going to have to feed these bees. All right, put the queen bee over here where she's safe. I know she won't get harmed over there. We've got a mason jar. Pint size works best. Largemouth works best. Number 8 hardware cloth in place of the solid lid for a mason jar with my metal ring. Got my powdered sugar and a half cup measuring cup. I'm going to take a frame of brood. I want the nurse bees. The most mites in the hive will be on the frame with open brood. I'm going to shake those off. Now I've got bees in this container. We're going to measure out half a cup of bees. Okay, we're going to put that in the container. Put the lid on. Put the rest of the bees back in the hive. We're going to take about two tablespoons of powdered sugar and put that over the screen here. That's enough to cover the bees. And then we do as the name for the treatment implies, we roll them around in there. We can sugar shake them or we can sugar roll them. Do this for about a minute. That'll dislodge the mites from the bees. So want to shake them around a little bit. Don't get too rough or you can't hurt them, but just roll them around a bit. The powdered sugar coats the bees. They get all covered with it, and then the mite loses its grip on the bee. It can't hang on to the bee anymore. So after the bees have been in here for a minute, we shake the sugar out. Leave the bees in, shake them. Shake the sugar along with the mites out. If you have some water to spray on there, that dissolves the sugar, and then you can see the mites. So far I see 2. So I got some other debris on this drip tray, but there's a mite there, and that's not one. That's a piece of wax. There's a mite. I see 2 mites. I'll dump these bees back in. No harm done. They'll clean each other up and have fun doing it. Do we want to do a comparative alcohol wash in this one? All right. Honey Company here, we are testing for mites. We could just assume that all colonies have mites, which they pretty much do, but we want to see what the mite levels are. So in order to do that, we're going to do an alcohol wash. I've got a little bee supply available mite checker. It's plastic, it's got a little screen in it. You put alcohol in it, and we dump some bees in there, and that'll dislodge the mites from the bees and give us an accurate count of our mite levels. Previously, we've taken the queen and I put her safe over here in a nuke box while I go through the colony here and find a frame of brood which has nurse bees on it, which will have the highest count of mites on them. So I want a frame of brood with bees on it. I'm going to shake the bees off into a container. And then I'm going to measure out 300 individual bees, which is a half a cup. I'll put it up to the fill line. There we go. That's good. All right, now I'm going to put them in the mite wash. Sorry, sweeties, that will kill those bees, but it will give us an accurate account. Better we have a good idea of what's going on with our mites in the hive and kill a few bees rather than kill the whole colony. So I'm going to agitate this for about a minute. That'll dislodge the mites from the bees, and they'll float through the screen, sink to the bottom, and then we can count them. Previously did a powder sugar roll in this, and we counted 2 mites out of 300. So we're going to use the alcohol wash method. It's more accurate than the powder sugar method. We think. We're going to have a count here in a minute. We'll see.
1 minute later.
Okay. All right, we want to move the basket, the washing machine basket, and the mites will be in the bottom of this container. Well, let's count them. All right, well, there's 1, 2, 3. I see 3.
So probably not that statistically different from 2.
No. So the powdered sugar method works. It works okay. It gives you an accurate enough count. Got bees in the powdered sugar. If you're going to use this powdered sugar in the kitchen later, you want to get all the bees out. That was just a joke, you know. This is a dedicated bag of sugar just for treating bees with. We don't use this in the kitchen. Yeah, so if your bees have some mites but not an overload level, and you choose not to treat, we're going to assume because they have a low level of mites that they have some mite resistance. So those are the bees we want to keep, and those are the bees that we don't want to treat for mites. But is that reality? Does that really happen? The mite levels in this aren't sufficient enough to kill the colony, we think. So I'm not going to treat this colony, and we're going to come back with a follow-up video this next spring and see if they're dead. Now, if they're dead, how do we know it wasn't the mites? Welcome to the bee industry.
So the reality of treating bees in our industry is that we want to move towards treatment-free beekeeping, but it's hard to do because we also don't want our bees to die, right? So
Yeah.
that we're constantly like maybe even in a battle with ourselves to decide if we should treat them or not. Like, so some days we're like, yeah, we're gonna treat all of our bees because we just need them to stay alive. And some days we're like, we need to, you know, let's not treat and see if we can get some survivor stock out of these bees. It's just like a never-ending flip-flop back and forth depending on the day.
Today we tested for mites using a alcohol wash, and we used a powdered sugar wash. Check for the level of Varroa mites. This is fall 2022.
If you liked this video, be sure to check out our beekeeping courses at thehoneycompany.com. We're offering 6 full-length beekeeping courses for beginning, intermediate, and advanced beekeepers. See you there.